Thank you very much for joining me, Kim Constable. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here on this channel. I've been admiring you from afar, and I can't believe that you're finally here. So it's absolutely fantastic to see you. Could you just, if people have been living under a rock and don't know you, could you describe what you are? Your persona is the sculpted vegan. So what is that all about?
It's funny. It's the company is going through like a transition at the minute into kind of making the brand more just sculpted, and a lot of people confuse me, Kim Constable, and they think I am the sculpted vegan because I guess I was in the beginning, but the company has become so big and so successful now that the company is the sculpted vegan. So, but first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm delighted to be here. Like I said, your ads and stuff have been popping up on my Facebook page for for a while. And the funny thing is, people would say to me, "Oh, look, here's another girl. She's doing what you're doing in fitness with women over 40." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, Melissa, I've seen her." And like, I'll go onto your ads and I'll be like, "Great work, Melissa. Love your ad. Looks amazing." I just think there's enough room for everybody in the market. I certainly am not competitive in that way at all. But to answer your question, Sculpted Vegan, it was kind of born years ago whenever I was in about 2016. I had decided that I wanted to do a bikini competition, and I was had been vegetarian for many years, had transitioned to being vegan about a year previously, and I decided I was going to do a bikini competition at age 37, never having stepped foot in a gym. I'd only started training in the gym I've been in the gym when I was younger, but never trained professionally, or seriously. I was a yoga teacher at the time, and I decided in 2016 that I was going to do a bikini competition because I'd started training in the gym in April and I really loved it. And I realized I was good at it. I was strong. I loved beasting it. And I was like, "Oh, I'm really good at this." And I'd always harbored this secret fantasy of doing a bikini competition. Ever since my sister years ago had started training in the gym with a lot of bodybuilders, and she decided she was going to do a competition. Now, she never actually did it in the end, but she really got into incredible shape through the training. And at the time, I remember thinking, God, I would love to do that because I'd always loved muscles. So I decided then that I was going to do a bikini competition. And so I went online. I was like, I know, I'm just going to buy a program online because I've been studying the online business world for probably 6 years, trying and failing to start some kind of online business to make money from home because I had 4 kids. And I finally jacked it all in and decided I'm just going to teach yoga and I'm going to forget about being an online entrepreneur. So one day I'm searching through these, Google, and I'm like, I'm just going to buy a program online that is, going to teach me how to go from, where I am now to stepping on stage as a bikini athlete, as a vegan bikini athlete. So I was convinced that this program would exist because, of course, I knew from studying the online marketing world that you could buy courses on anything. You could buy a course on, how to set up your, and make money on Pinterest, on LinkedIn. I had bought and done Facebook ads courses. I had bought every single course that existed online and sat in on webinars and sat in on 5-day challenges and utilized all the free stuff to try and learn and grow because I'd wanted to grow this online business. So I knew that these scalable business models existed, and I just assumed they existed in the fitness world. So I'm Googling one day and I'm like, okay, vegan bikini fitness program, nothing. I was like, oh, okay. So vegan stage athlete bikini diet and exercise program, nothing. So I was like, kept searching all of these search terms and nothing was coming up. There were vegan bodybuilding and fitness, who was Robert Cheek. He kept coming up, but he didn't have any programs. There was another girl called Chrissy Carvalho, who was a vegan bikini model or something, hers was called. But anyway, she just did small coaching programs that only lasted for like 3 months or whatever, that weren't specifically go from here to here. And that's all I'd been seeing online, for many, many years was, go from here to here in Pinterest, go from here to here, like this will be your end result. So as I was searching, I was kind of like, ding, 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 ding. I thought there is no scalable business model that exists for specifically what I'm searching for. And if I'm searching for this, I can guarantee you there are millions of women all over the world searching for this. So I thought, I am going to create this program. So I went and found myself a trainer, and I said to him, he said, "I don't know anything about training vegans." I said, "You don't need to. You just need to get me to the stage. I'm going to document everything along the way." I was I was a yoga teacher, and I had been studying nutrition since I was 21, very, very, very in depth. So I have no nutritional training. I'm not a certified nutritionist, but I had been studying the human body and nutrition nutrition for a long, long time. So I was like, I can do the vegan part. You just do the training part. So over the next year, I went to train with him in July, and actually from then I stood on stage for the first time the following April. So from July to April, I literally documented every single thing that we did, every training program we did, every exercise we did, everything I ate, my calories and and then I did, my shred calories. And I just took the plan that I created with him and made it into a program called the Sculpted Vegan Program. And it was a 12-month program, which basically the promise of which was sculpt the body of a bikini athlete in 12 months or less. As a vegan bikini athlete in 12 months or less. As physique athlete, I said, sculpt the body of a physique athlete on a vegan diet in 12 months or less. So that was, what the program specifically was. And my husband was going to me, and I charged $1,000 for it. It was $997. My first ever program was $997. It's $1,000, 12 months long. And my husband was like, do you honestly think there's women out there are going to pay $1,000? Enough vegan women in their 40s going to pay $1,000 for a fitness program that takes 12 months? And I was like, yes, I really do, because that's how long it takes, and people are going to know I'm not lying to them, because I'm not saying, oh, get these results in 4 weeks. I'm like, you can get these results in a year, so it instantly makes you more trustworthy. So that was kind of my whole selling point. And so that's how the company started. And because I had studied online marketing for quite a while, I knew that it didn't matter how good the program was that you created. If you didn't have a way to sell it, you weren't going to make any money. Because I'd created some kick-ass, different business programs and make money from home as a stay-at-home mom and this kind of stuff in the past, but I didn't have a sales funnel to sell it. And so what I knew that if this was to be successful, I needed to do that. So that is what I focused on. And I set up a sales funnel, ran a webinar, ran a series of webinars, did all my own Facebook ads, hired a designer. That was it, to do all my design stuff, made 52,000 in my first launch, and then hired a Facebook ads company to put it on evergreen, and then scaled the company to $1 million in the first year. So that is the story of how the Sculpted Vegan became the Sculpted Vegan. And then of course I had started an Instagram account called the Sculpted Vegan, which then grew and grew and grew and grew. So then I became synonymous with the Sculpted Vegan. I was the Sculpted Vegan and still am to a certain extent to those who know me, but I'm kind of now trying to transition out of the Sculpted Vegan being Kim Constable and the Sculpted Vegan being its own entity, which we have been doing for a while. But I guess because I'm so closely associated with the business, people still see me as the Sculpted Vegan. So that is how the Sculpted Vegan became to be. 8 years later, we are now.
So tell me about menopause. Do you think then that the women going through, so you were 37 when you were looking at all of this, and now are you in perimenopause, Kim?
Yes, I'm 46 now.
So you're in perimenopause. So what's changed? How do women need to do things differently? What have you discovered?
Well, what I actually discovered whenever I started going into menopause was I just started researching it, because I guess a lot of my clients have come with me from the very beginning. Like, so many of my clients have been with me for like 7-8 years. And so they've transitioned into perimenopause and menopause with me. So as I really understood what was going on with them and I wanted to help them be better, I went very deep into the research in menopause. And that is something that I do a lot. I am extremely good at taking complex information or reading scientific studies. I love reading scientific papers. And because of my background in studying the human body and knowing so much about everything about the human body, I am very good at taking complex scientific papers and breaking them down in a way that is easy to understand. And that's why I guess it's one of my strong points, is one of my teaching points. I'm certainly not a scientist or a nutritionist or any of those things, but I can interpret data really well. That's actually, what I do best. So what I started realizing one day, I was studying a scientific paper on menopause. I was trying to figure out why women were constantly complaining of putting on abdominal fat in menopause. They were like, where has this belly come from? And it all came from a story, I guess. This is how I was triggered, actually. I was at my sister's house one day, and all my family go through menopause very early. So my mum was 47. She hadn't had a menstrual period in a year. My oldest sister was 47. My other sister is now 47. She hasn't had a period in a year. I'm 46. I'm still having periods, but I'm definitely heading exactly the same way. And so Carol was just, she was really beginning to suffer with perimenopause, started having hot flushes or hot flashes, as they say in America, and had started suffering with the symptoms and was talking about starting HRT. And she said to me one day when I was in her kitchen, she said, I don't know what is wrong. I haven't changed a single thing. Like, my diet is the same. My exercise is the same. I've changed nothing, but I'm just putting on all of this fat around my middle. And I was like, interesting. Like, why would that be? I said, I've definitely heard that a lot from my menopausal women. Now, I was,
Mm.
this is maybe 3, 4 years ago. So I was in my early 40s and hadn't, been having any of those symptoms. And so I said, I wonder why that would be. I said, I'm going to go and figure out why, Carol. So you know why this is happening. So that was kind of the catalyst for me going and figuring it out. So I started going and looking at different papers and different scientific research and watching videos and reading books as to why this would happen. And so what I realized was, and it's funny, I have never heard, and people are beginning to teach it now, but before I started teaching this, I've never heard anyone teach this. I'm not saying they haven't, but I haven't heard it. But people are now jumping on the narrative, and because menopause is a big thing. I always say menopause is the new veganism. So what I found whenever I started researching was that in menopause, your body starts to create insulin resistance within your cells in
Mm.
order to divert more energy to fat stores. And so it happens naturally once your ovarian function starts to decline. So the ovaries are responsible for producing estrogen in the body, and the ovaries produce the main, or the kind of the strongest form of estrogen, which is estradiol. Now, estradiol is produced in the ovaries, but fat cells, especially those deep in the abdominal around the organs, visceral fat, is very biologically active fat. And biologically active fat is good at producing estrone, which is a secondary and weaker form of estrogen, but still can be used by the body. So what I realized as I started to look at these studies was that from about the age of 35, right? Your body, because at age 30, you only have 10% of your egg supply left. Whenever we're born, we have about 2 to 3 million eggs. Those are utilized, up throughout our cycle by, we release an egg every single month, but also the body kills off eggs that are not, that are not viable. And so by age 30, you have about 10% of your egg supply left. By age 40, you have 2% of your egg supply left. So what happens at around age 35, somewhere in between the 10% and 2%, I hypothesize, is that your body starts to recognize that its egg supply is getting low. Okay. Because your body is an amazing organism. Okay. So it begins to recognize your egg supply is getting low and your estrogen levels are really just maybe not as consistent as they used to be, because your hypothalamus is constantly evaluating your blood for your levels of hormone. It's constantly looking at the levels of hormones in the blood. So whenever estrogen drops in the blood, the hypothalamus says to the pituitary gland, okay, release some FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone, pump it in there, send it to the ovaries and say, we need an egg, please. So that happens. The FSH goes to the ovaries starts to mature an egg. It's the sac around the egg which actually causes the estradiol to be released into the blood. But as your ovaries start to decline and they don't have as many eggs left, your ovaries are not as keen to release an egg. They're like, no, we're holding on to it for a while longer. So what happens then is your body starts to create what I call an estrogen retirement fund in your belly.
Mm.
It goes, aha, okay, estradiol is really not maybe as prevalent as it used to be. We recognize it's getting slightly lower, slightly harder to create every month. So let's start creating insulin resistance within the muscle cells to divert more energy to fat stores so that we have an estrogen supply whenever this gal's old, right? Whenever this broad isn't, ovulating anymore, we have an estrogen supply. And by the way, I go between saying estrogen and estrogen because I have so many Americans who follow me, and whenever I say
Yes.
estrogen, they're like, huh? So that's why sometimes I say estrogen, sometimes I say estrogen. I go between the two. So basically, your body then starts to try to create what we call an estrogen retirement fund deep in your belly. But the problem is, it's internal fat, viscerally around your internal organs, so you don't
Mm.
see it. It's only when it reaches crisis point about 10 years later, sometimes 15 years later, that you go to pull up your, zip up your pants one day and you realize they don't fit. And you're like, why have I got like this pregnant belly? Because you have a huge amount of fat around your internal organs, which is your body's estrogen retirement fund. So that is why your body creates the insulin resistance within your cells in order to divert more energy to there so it can produce more estrone. And, because every single cell in our body needs estrogen. Every single cell in our body needs estrogen. Your body is not ready to give up on it. So I've been kind of educating women on this is why it's happening. Because a lot of women are going, why am I getting bigger?
Mm.
Why am I getting fatter? Why is this happening? And I've always been the kind of person who wants to understand why. I'm like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my body? Why is this working the way this is working? Because I know that when I can figure out why, it makes me feel so much better. And so I'm on a one woman mission now to educate women as to why this is happening, but also why I believe every woman around the age of 45 should be on a course of, hormone replacement therapy, or MHT as they call it, menopause hormone therapy, by the age of 45, because estrogen is super protective in nature and it's much better at prevention than cure. So if you start it too late and you've already developed osteoporosis or dementia or ADHD or fibromyalgia or multiple sclerosis or all of these things that come from having a decrease in estrogen levels in your body, it's almost too late. Like, it's hard to cure it once it's gotten hold. So I just think that women need to be much, much, much more educated around perimenopause, the changes that are happening in their bodies, so they can help to navigate them. And that's how I really got into the whole menopause thing, because I started to go through it. And then as I went through it and I learned, I started to teach it to other women.
And what do you think? I mean, it's really great that you're talking about educating. I know when I was going through it that I just didn't understand what was going on in my body. But I think what's really helpful about that is then when someone gives you a strategy, and we're going to talk about your strategy in a moment, then if you understand the reason why something's happening to your body, then you're more on board and more motivated about the strategy. So as well as the HRT, so you talked about the HRT. What can people, and I'm fully on board with HRT, by the way. I take hormone replacement therapy. I found it to be really useful in terms of like my overall health, managing my symptoms, being able to get up in the morning, for example, just stuff like that.
Pain free. It's
Just simply getting through the day. I found it really helpful. So what other strategies would you recommend for women over 40 in terms of, or 40, it might be over 35, it might be over 45, because everyone goes through this at a different stage. What other strategies would you recommend?
Well, the first thing that we always teach is, I mean, it's what everyone's banging on about at the minute, is strength training. And I think strength training is the buzzword at the minute, and I almost hate starting with it, because you can almost hear women like groan, oh God, everyone's trying to get me into the gym, But it's like, well, here's why we're trying to get you into the gym, right? We're not trying to make your life uncomfortable or say that you should look like a bodybuilder or anything like that. It's like, think about it logically, okay? The biological process that your body goes through is your body tries to divert more energy away from muscle tissue and into fat stores. How does it do that? By creating insulin resistance. What does that even mean? It means that the insulin receptors that you have on the surface of your muscle cells, when your blood sugar rises and insulin is released from your pancreas into your blood, those receptors open. They uptake the glucose, they convert it into glycogen, they utilize the energy, and anything that's left over is sent to fat store. So if you are eating just a normal balanced control, not even macro and calorie controlled, but just a normal balanced diet, where say 80% of the glucose used to be utilized by the muscles and converted into muscle glycogen, maybe only 50% of it is now. So it used to be, say, 80% of it went into the muscle, 20% of it went into fat store if you're, obviously eating in a slight calorie surplus, which a lot of women are. But now in menopause, let's say, and this is a hypothetical, by the way, I'm just pulling these numbers out of the air, but let's say 50-50 it is now. So 50% is being converted into muscle glycogen and 50% is going to fat store. Well, one of the ways that you can combat this happening is build more muscle. So if you just think about it, so if you, here's my lip balm, okay? If you're eating this amount of glycogen is going into your blood, and you have a fist's worth of muscle tissue to fill it up with, right? If half of this muscle tissue, for those of you who are watching, obviously, the video, if half of this muscle tissue is now resistant to the glucose, well, half of this is going to go into the muscle and half of it's going to go into fat cells, right? Imagine the muscle tissue in your body is this size, okay? You're still putting this amount of glucose in. So but there's a lot more cells to fill up with the glucose, so there's a lot less left over to go to fat store. So if you're even just talking about combating the insulin response, there's less glucose left over to go to fat store. So it doesn't even matter if your cells are slightly insulin resistant, because there's a lot more of them, right? So if women just focused on building more muscle, that would circumvent this process and stop them from storing body fat. Because one thing I can tell you is, I do not have any excess body fat. I am a 46-year-old woman. I am 72 kilos. I think that's about 150 pounds on the scales. And I am 15% body fat. So I am like rock hard muscle and I can eat whatever I want and I don't put on any body fat. And people always say to me, Kim, how can you drink alcohol and eat all this food and eat all of these white starchy carbs and eat whatever you want? I'm like, it's because my body is a fuel burning machine. It's a furnace. So because I have so much muscle, because I strength train a lot. And so women just need to understand that strength training, even if you think about it aesthetically, strength training aesthetically stops your body from storing fat, which makes you feel better and look better. But apart from that, strength training is the one thing that is shown to stave off osteoporosis later on in life. Estrogen protects your bones. Whenever estrogen levels start to decline, if you're not on some form of hormone replacement therapy, then your bones will get weaker. But whenever you strength train in the gym, because you're pulling on the bones with your muscles and your ligaments and your tendon, there's resistance on the bones, and so the bones stay strong. So you don't suffer from osteoporosis. So not only are you protecting your body now, you're protecting your body later on in life. And I think that a woman's focus needs to shift whenever she goes from her 20s and her 30s, where you care about looking good in a bikini, and guys fancying you and all that kind of stuff. And then you have your kids, and then you get into your 40s, and yeah, you want to look good. But for me, certainly now that I'm heading, towards my 50s, for me, it's more about, everything hurts a wee bit more now. I don't know about you, but I'm just like, I can like wake up in the morning. I'm like, oh God, I need a new pillow. Like my neck hurts. Or I can, be in the gym. I'm doing pendulum squats. I had to say to my trainer today, I'm going to drop back 10 kilos because I'm pushing with my shoulders and I keep getting like this twinge in my trap now, whenever I'm doing certain leg exercises. And sometimes when I'm bench pressing, I'm like, oh, elbow, like my tendon in my elbow isn't happy. So your body is going to break down anyway, simply through the aging process. So why not give it the best possible chance of remaining strong and not only looking good, but feeling good. And so strength training is one of the biggest things that I would say. And then the second thing, I guess, that we teach three things. We call it the Sculpted Menopause method, and we call it the 5-3-5 method. And so it's basically eat protein, eat 30 grams of protein 5 times a day. And women are like, 30 grams 5 times a day? I'm like, 30 grams 5 times a day. 30 grams at breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, dinner, and evening snack.
Can I just sort of clarify, because I know people get confused about this 30 grams of protein. What would 30 grams of protein look like if it was chicken breast? How much weight in chicken breast would that
I
be?
think, I'm vegan, obviously, so I haven't actually
Oh, yes,
made a
sorry.
chicken breast in a long time. But no, I think about 150, I think about 150 grams, 120 grams. I'm just going to look
I
it up
think it's
right now.
120.
Is it 120?
Yeah,
You know what,
something like
Melissa?
that.
Let's check right now. Here
Yes.
we go. Log food. I'm just going
I
into
think
my
it might be
fitness
even
pal.
100 grams of chicken breast,
Raw
actually.
skinless chicken breast, 150 grams is, I'm going to tell you now, here we go. 150 grams is 33.8 grams of protein and 3.9
so it's
grams of fat.
150 grams.
So raw skinless chicken breast, 150 grams of raw skinless chicken breast, which is about one chicken breast. One regular size chicken breast is 33 grams. If you're vegan, it's about 170 grams of seitan, is about 42 grams of protein. So you could eat about 150 grams, probably 120 grams maybe. 150 grams of egg whites, I believe, is about 40 grams of protein. So it's really just about thinking, getting out. We're a nation of cereal and toast junkies. I remember saying to my sister, what do you have for breakfast? Well, what I've always had. I was like, well, what is that? Well, cereal and toast. I'm like, Carol, you're a 47-year-old woman and you're eating cereal and toast for breakfast. And she's like, well, what do you eat for breakfast? I'm like, protein, scrambled tofu, sourdough toast, avocado, like good fats, good protein. Like Ryan, my husband, eats egg whites, one egg scrambled with 150 grams of egg whites and half an avocado and one piece of sourdough, carbs, fats, proteins. And it's astonishing to me how many women are just not prioritizing eating enough protein. And women go to me, is that not excessive? That's 150 grams a day. I'm like, I would rather quote you an excessive amount and have you hit like half of it or 3/4 of it than say, because the human psychology is all about, like, whenever I develop my programs, whenever I develop my shred programs, I made them insanely hard. People would come to me and go, oh my God, like 2 hours of cardio a day plus like like on, like, say, a 4-week shred, 120 calories a day, unlimited green vegetables, and 2 hours of cardio and 6 days of strength training. And they're like, this is insane. Like, what normal person can do this? The reason why I did it that hard was because most people only follow a program 50%. The majority,
Right.
60% of people who join your program will follow it 50%. In fact, 10% of people here's the statistics. 20% of people who buy your program will not follow it at all. They will open it, read it, and do nothing. 30% will follow it 50%. And we have run the numbers, we know. 20% will follow it anywhere between 50 to 80%, 20 to 30%, 50 to 80%, somewhere around there. 10% of people will follow it to the letter. And so I wanted to make sure that the program was hard enough that even if people only followed at 50%, they would still get insane results. So people join my 4-week programs and they go, I can't believe this. I only followed the program 50% and I lost 12 pounds in 4 weeks. But the people who followed it 100% of the time lose 30 pounds in 4 weeks. So
Wow.
whereas if I had made it easy enough for people to actually show up and follow it, the numbers still don't change. You still only have 10% of people following it to the letter. And that, between 20 or between only 20% of people will not do it. And then the others in between, the other 70% in between will do it anywhere between 50 and 80%. And so you have to make sure that that majority doing it 50 to 80% will get good enough results, which is why the program has to be so hard that only a very small amount of people can actually finish it.
And then do
How
you
did I
get
even get
sort
into
of
that? I can't
pushed
remember.
back? We'll still talk about your method because we haven't finished the whole
Yeah.
method yet. But do you get pushback from people because they're menopausal and older about how much they can do physically?
Yes.
Do you and what are your thoughts on that? Is there a barrier? Is there an age barrier, or could you do anything at any age?
No, I don't think so. I think that what we have learned now is so I guess the example that I'm giving you, although it just depends on your market. Like we just ran a 4-week menopause shred program. The results came in today. And the results are simply astonishing. Like you had to be over 40, I think, to join the program or to enter your photos. And you have to send us photographic ID to show that you are. And the results are absolutely astonishing. But what we found whenever we released that program was normally if we release a 4-week shred program, we would sell about 3,000 to 3,500 programs usually. And in this one, whenever we released this one, because it was specifically for menopause, we had a much higher caliber of customer, but I think we only sold about 1,700. And I was really surprised because normally for this type of program with this prize money, we would sell 3,500. But it confirmed what I had begun to believe, which is menopausal women don't actually want to work that hard anymore. The younger woman does, and she doesn't mind it, but
Mhm.
menopausal women don't want to work that hard. And so we have started to now completely transition our programs into slightly I don't want to say easier programs. I guess easier is probably the right word. But here's the thing that I've noticed, Melissa, is that even though and this is the problem that we're up against, right? Women in menopause want our results. And when I say ours, I mean yours and mine. They want our results their way. And so they're like, Kim, I want to look
Put the
like
work
you.
in, you're
But
saying. They don't
but
wanna have to put the
can I
work
change?
in.
Yeah, can I change this? And can I change this? And can I eat this? And can I still have this? And can I not do this? And can I do this? And I'm like, you can't have your result, my results your way, And so, and the problem is they still have these really high expectations and they still want the results and they still want, to transform their bodies and they still want the competitions and the big cash competitions, but they really don't want to work that hard for it. And so I'm just like, sweetheart, you can't have it both ways. You can either have my results my way or you can have lesser results your way. But wanting my results your way is being completely out of line with reality. So I'm very, very straight with people. I'm like, I can create
I
you
love that.
easier
That
programs. And we did. We created an over 50
mm,
program last year where we made it super easy. We give them a treat every day. Like they could either have a glass of wine, they could have it was yogurt. Everybody seems obsessed with yogurt. I don't know what the obsession with yogurt is. I haven't eaten yogurt since I was a child. But anyway, everyone seems to want yogurt. So they could have yogurt with fruit, 2 squares of dark chocolate, or a glass of wine every day. Oh my God, they loved it. Now, the results of that program were not quite as astonishing as the other ones, but it suited the over 50s and they liked it and they seem to be happy with what they've got. So I think it's finding the sweet spot of like, well, how hard do you want to work? But then aligning their expectations with reality. I'm like, well, just FYI, see this program over here where this girl lost 30 pounds. Well, you're not going to lose 30 pounds on this program because it's not designed that way. You might lose 10 or 12 or 15, which most women are happy with, but you're not going to lose 30 because the program isn't set up to lose 30. It's created to be slightly easier. So I guess it's about realigning their expectations with reality and just being completely blunt with it. And I am very blunt. I
I
would
love
rather
that about you.
someone be
I
straight up.
think you're sort of really straight talking, and it's really refreshing to see.
People trust you when you're a straight talker because I always
Mm.
say people may not like what I have to say, but they will respect the fact that I'm not afraid to say it. And they will get pissed off at me and they'll not like what I have to say, but they will say, well, at least you know where you stand. At least you know she's not lying to you. And
Mm.
and that is one of the things I've always prided myself on. But yes, so 5 grams of protein, 30 grams of protein 5 times a day, right? And mid morning. So here's what I eat. Morning, I get up, I have scrambled tofu, 280 grams of scrambled tofu with one piece of, I'm actually having wholemeal toast at the minute, one piece of like Hovis kind of wholemeal granary toast, right? It's all in my macros. So that's my breakfast. Then mid morning, I have one scoop of the Protein Works Wonder Shake, which is what we recommend. It's a vegan protein powder. So I have one scoop of that with 100 grams of frozen riced cauliflower. Frozen riced cauliflower is the holy grail of bodybuilding because it doesn't add any extra calories, but it makes your food thicker, bulkier, and creamier, and it does not taste like cauliflower. So I will blend that with water, frozen riced cauliflower, and protein powder mid-morning. Then at lunchtime, today I had seitan chicken, which was, which we make at home. It's about 42 grams of protein per portion. It was fried in 1 tablespoon of oil with some garlic and spices, 35 grams of basmati rice, which was cooked. That was the dry weight, and as much broccoli as I can eat. So that was lunch. Great big bowl of chicken fried rice. Then dinner tonight will be, I think it's some kind of quinoa. I think it's 50 grams of quinoa actually, which will be cooked into some kind of quinoa salad with loads of vegetables and greens. And then it'll be some kind of seitan chicken or seitan beef in probably a casserole on the side. And then in the evening, again, frozen riced cauliflower. Here is a game changer. Frozen riced cauliflower is literally my staple. So you put about 100 grams of frozen riced cauliflower into the blender with a little bit of water and blend it so it's really, really creamy. And then throw in 30 grams of peanut butter. It's in my macros, so I'm counting them. So 30 grams of peanut butter and a scoop of chocolate protein powder. And it makes it like a thick chocolate, like mousse parfait kind of dessert. Pour it into a glass, put it in the fridge to chill it. You can even add like some oranges to it if you want, or squeeze some orange over it to make it like chocolate orange. And then after dinner, whenever I get like a sweet craving in the evening, that will be my sweet craving, which is another 30 grams of protein. So that is how you can get your 30 grams of protein in 5 times a day. If you do that, you will never be hungry. You will never need to snack. You will never be hungry. And when you're hungry, it's time for the next meal. So you're like, great, I'm hungry. Oh, it's lunchtime. Oh, I'm hungry. Great, it's dinner time. Oh, I'm hungry. It's snack time. So that's the second thing. Sorry, 30 grams of protein 5 times a day. Second thing is strength train 3 times a week. You have to strength train minimum 3 times a week. Push, pull, legs. That's all you have to do. And train to failure, right? None of this mamby-pamby, 2.5 kilogram dumbbells, like walking around the gym, chatting to your buddy. Train to failure, train until you can't move your body part anymore in that particular muscle group in one set. And then the last thing is do 30 minutes of cardio 5 days a week. Walk your dog. I don't care what you do. Walk your dog, walk on a treadmill, get outside, do Zumba, cycle, swim, whatever. Just move your body for 30 minutes, preferably in your fat burning zone. But if that's too complicated for you, don't worry about it. And just move your body literally for 30 minutes, 5 times a day. If you do that for a year, people are like, oh, a year? I'm like, yes, do that for a year and you will have a different body at the end of a year. Do it for 3 years and you will be a different person. Like people are like, oh, but I did it for a week and I didn't lose any weight. And you're like, I stood on the scale after a week and I was still the same weight. And you're like, yeah, it took you 50 years to get here. Do you think you're going to transform in a week? So you have to realign their expectations as well and just teach them to be patient. But that's what we teach in the Sculpted Menopause method. Those 3 things and a whole lot of patience and you'll get where you want to go.
And you're getting insane results. I know I've seen some of the sort of before and after pictures. And what I thought was incredible was when you did the 12-month program, because I thought, you got to have something about you to get the women to stay in for 12 months and do that. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, we actually we haven't had a 12-month program for a while. So whenever I started the Sculpted Vegan program, it was 12 months. And then I kind of rebranded it in the early days and I made it 18 months because they needed to build muscle for 12 months and then we gave them 24 weeks to shred. And people are like,
Mm.
24 weeks? I'm like, the average bodybuilder will shred for the stage a minimum of 12 weeks, but I've done 24-week shreds for the stage before. Slow, steady, gradual shreds. So we did the 18-month program and that was great too. We loved it, but people still loved the challenges. They loved the start and the finish, of the challenges. So we then launched Extreme Body Makeover, which was a 6-month program. And I'm going to show you some of that. I'm going to just show some of your people some of the results. Like
Oh,
the
yes, it was 6 months. I do
It was 6
apologize. It
months.
wasn't 12 months.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's fine, but it like absolutely and utterly insane. Some of the women lost like 100. So actually, I'm going to show you this one here. This was the winner. Do you know I hate the new iPhone? Do you ever get then you're like scrolling and then you scroll and then it just like clicks off it
And
because it
I
thinks you're
don't
like,
like the new photo.
yeah, that's what I mean. And the new photo,
Yeah,
it's
the new
scrolling
photo
away from
thing
it.
is really, the
See if I
photo
can
app is really hard
find.
to use now.
It really is. I want to see if I can find Elka's before and after. So the winner of that program lost, she lost 198 pounds in 6 months. I have like it's funny. I want to show you. I have all of her photos here to see. She sent them all like month
Oh,
by month.
yes.
And I
Yes.
wish, but I'm trying to find a side by side. But anyway, this is what she looked like when she joined the program, and she's 50.
Yes.
Elka's 50, and then this was her at the end.
Yes, I remember seeing that. That is
Like
absolutely incredible. So
six
sort of 6 months of
months.
hard graft, was it?
Yeah,
And
hard. So
very
she did a
strict
3 month build.
nutrition.
3 month. It was no, it wasn't even strict. There was no macro or calorie counting in the first 3 months. We just gave them a set of principles to eat by. So it was like, and we call it the you split your plate into a third. So it's a third protein, beans, and greens. So you can eat unlimited beans and unlimited greens. So 30 grams of protein. So a third of your plate should be protein, and then a third should be beans, any kind of beans or lentils or legumes that you want, and then a third should be greens. So it was at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Fill your plate with breakfast is like you don't have to have greens at breakfast, but people would have had oatmeal with frozen riced cauliflower. Putting frozen riced cauliflower in your oatmeal, you can literally do like a tablespoon of porridge, which is about 15 grams, and mix that up with frozen riced cauliflower and then add protein powder in, and it literally just tastes like you're eating porridge, like eating oatmeal, but there's hardly any
Mm.
calories in it at all. So we taught them how to eat by principles: proteins, beans, and greens, prioritizing protein, the 30 grams at every meal at 5 meals a day. She strength trained probably 4 to 5 times a week, and she did cardio probably every day, about 30 minutes of cardio 5 days a week. And then in the shred portion at the end, it was more calorie controlled. And so she would have then followed it to the letter. But like her results were not unique. Like Kerry, who came second, I think Kerry lost 65 pounds. There was I can't even remember. Yes, who came third? Oh, I can't. Misty who came third. She ended up looking like she was like a full on ripped bodybuilder. She had like her quads had striations in them. It was insane what these women did in 6 months. But the reason why they did it, just to be completely transparent, was because I had $180,000 of prize money on the line. So the top prize for the winner of that program was $100,000. Second prize was 50.
Mhm.
Third prize was 30 or 20, I think. Fourth prize was 10,000. Fifth got 5,000, and then sixth to 10th got 1,000 each. So they were competing for $100,000. So there's something extraordinary happens whenever you have a huge amount of motivation, which is what a bikini competition does for you as well. Like when you're standing on stage in a sparkly thong, you ain't cheating on your diet because you don't want to look fat on stage. So having a goal, having a wedding or a big vacation or, something to motivate you is extremely important, I find. And that's why I've always offered cash prizes for our programs, because people need something that they can work towards that keeps them going and something that, that keeps them motivated, because a lot of people just lack discipline and motivation in themselves until they build it. They need the discipline and motivation to keep going, which the competitions do provide, we found.
Yeah, you do an amazing job with that. And I guess that sort of leads me then. Do you have any kind of specific projects going on at the moment that people can, and I'll put the link in the description, people can sign up for?
Yeah, well, what I've realized recently was my audience has become menopausal, right? As I got older, I, brought them all along with me. And because I'm now a 46-year-old perimenopausal woman who, looks like a 46-year-old woman, people look at me and they go, well, at least she's not a young thing. And I'm like, I don't know whether that's a compliment or not. It's like, that's what I have a couple of people
That's
said
a
to me.
bit
Oh,
cruel, isn't it?
I love that you're not a little young thing. I'm like, but I got a high ponytail, I can be with the young things. So they always say, at least you're not a young thing. But I think that there aren't very many women like us in the fitness industry of our age who are out there leading the charge, and saying, I did this and you can do this too. So my menopausal women have come along with me. And what I realized as well was over the years, people used to say to me, how many, can people who eat, who are not vegan buy your program? And I used to tell them that 80% of my audience are not vegan. 80. Like you would think that I appeal to mostly vegans. I appeal to mostly non-vegans, interestingly, because I'm the
Mm.
most non-judgmental vegan you will ever meet in your entire life. Like I am like, you can eat whatever you want. I don't care. You can smoke or shoot up in here. Like doesn't matter to me. It's just like, just everyone's welcome. So that has always been a real selling point for me. And so I then decided recently to transition the company fully into menopause, because that is where my women are. That is what they want. All of our last programs have been focused on menopause and over 50s, and really niching down hard in that market. And so we have before Christmas, we were coming up with our plan for this year. The team and I were sitting down, we were brainstorming, our launches and what we were going to do. And I just said to them, do you know what, team? We need to build an app. And they were like, really? And I was like, yes, we need to build an app. I said, because, we keep launching these programs, and then once people buy them, they have them for life, and which is great, but they're not going back to them again and again and again. It's not sticky, right? They're not like being able to see their progress, and they want more personalization. People keep saying to me, oh, can I switch out this? And can I do this? And can I customize this? And we were having to create all these different PDFs and programs and alternative exercises and different things for them, which we were happy to do. But I was like, what if we just had an app where it had a macro calculator built into it? So we have built an app that has MyFitnessPal as a macro calculator, not that exact one, but a similar one built into it, where you can calculate your macros and calories right in the app. It records all of your weights and your sets and your reps. So you don't need anything like the Strong app where you have to record them over there. We have 350 recipes currently in the app, right? But you're all macro and calorie counted. So once you go into the recipe section and you click on, I want to make this and I want to make this, I want to make this, it adds it to your dashboard and deducts it from your calorie count. So it's and we've also got meal plans in there too, from 1,200 right up to 2,400. So you can follow a meal plan and it literally just adds it into your dashboard every day. You can calculate to whether you want to lose your macros for losing fat, for building muscle, for maintaining your body fat. You can follow home workout programs. In the gym programs, we made them advanced, intermediate, beginner, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day. You can filter based on how you feel, what you want. Do you want lower body, upper body, full body? We built a leaderboard, challenges, everything that they've been asking us for over the years, we just built it into an app, because we were like, we can run our challenges in here. We can, support our women. We have live chat inside it as well. You can ask a coach and get an instant response directly inside the app. It's everything my menopausal women have been asking me for. And know how long it took us to build it? 8 weeks.
That is absolutely amazing.
Because
because I've built an app, so I know how long it can take.
I took
So
the
8
I have a full coding team on staff. So I have coders who write the code, who are on the payroll full time. And so I literally had a team meeting before Christmas. I think it was the start of December, and I was like, okay, team, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build an app. And I was like, and we're going to build it now. I said, every single thing that everyone is working on, you're all off. Everything you've been working on, you do the bare minimum to get by on your jobs, and you focus all of your attention on the app. So I had the team building meal plans, and I taught them how to create the meal plans. My chef has been creating recipes. I taught them how to, all the stuff that they didn't have the skill set for. I taught them how to do it, or the ones that did have the skill set built it. And the entire team came off every single thing they had been working on to focus only on the app. And that's how we've been able to build it so fast. It was supposed to launch on Monday, but there were a couple of bugs that we had to sort out before we launched. So we're launching, I think, next Monday, but
And
that's
so
what we're
how
working
can
on the minute.
people find, how can people find that? What's it called
The
then?
Sculpted Menopause. So if you just look on
Sculpted
Google, the
Menopause. Yeah.
sculptedmenopause.com.
And I'll
Yeah.
put the
So
link
that's
in
what
the,
thank you so much. That's what we're
yeah,
focusing on at the minute. The Sculpted Menopause is what we're focusing on. And that's the only thing we're focusing on moving forward. It's what I'm deeply passionate about. It's all that I'm teaching about at the minute. And I just really want to arm women with the information that it, like, you can't start too late. It starts at 35. Your body is starting to accumulate body fat now. And the only way to circumvent it is actually to start building muscle and, keeping yourself, but it's all about keeping yourself healthy in longer life, in later life,
mm,
it's protecting your body. That's what I'm all about anyway. I just don't want to die, Melissa.
congratulations.
I don't want to die. Like, I'm like, I don't want to get cancer or some like debilitating disease. I want to live a long and healthy life and be there for my kids and my grandkids. That's kind of like my priority now.
Yeah, and I think when I talk to women in my community, this either my virtual community here on YouTube or, in my community, that's what they want. They're less about the visuals. I think you hit it on the head because you said, yeah, you still want to look good, but there are other priorities about longevity and for me, it's the quality of life. So yes, I want to live longer, but I don't want to live longer and be sat in a chair, not being able to move, and not
And
being having the freedom to do the things I want to do.
And I think you only appreciate quality of life whenever it starts to leave you. Like, I wake up in the mornings and I'm like, does anything hurt today? Do I have a headache? Or my feet sore? Especially in perimenopause, and everything starts to hurt, and you get brain fog and night sweats. And like, I had a permanent headache until I started HRT. I had a permanent headache. I was on painkillers every single day, like sometimes several times a day, because I literally lived with a permanent headache. My feet hurt every time I walked to the bathroom. I was like, why are my feet so sore? My joints hurt. I had constant UTIs. It was awful, absolutely awful. And I think whenever you go through something like that, you really appreciate feeling good. It takes to not feeling good to appreciate feeling good. And I guess at our stage of life, you get there and you're like, okay, like, feeling good is a real bonus. Like, I love it when I feel good. So I want to continue this on into later life is my kind of thinking on it anyway.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for your amazing contribution to women at this stage in life. You're a real inspiration, and I'll just sort of ask people to let me know in the comments whether you'd like me to have Kim back as well.
Yeah, for sure. And also, if anyone has a question in the comments that they want to ask, I'll keep an eye on the comments too. I'm more than happy to, to jump in and answer any questions. Or if anybody wants to reach out and ask me a question or whatever, you can get me at the Sculpted Vegan on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to connect with me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
You're so welcome.